Dude, for literally, it's got to be 65 consecutive weeks now. Trike is literally here, like within the first 15 seconds of me starting this space up. What a fucking legend. Absolutely love that guy.
Is that the quoted?
The quoted Trike, absolutely, dude. There's an amazing story that I will not tell behind that nickname because it's inside baseball at the Wolves out, but it is a great one, and Trike is a legend.
I'm always shocked by how fast people can enter because I feel like I click the notification right away, and when I get in here, there's already like 20, 30 people here. People just like waiting for the notification for Gamified to instantly join.
Dude, you love to hear it. I know for both of us at times, Limbs, it's been really tough with traveling, birthdays. I just found out fucking Gamified, I don't know, episode 90 or something is gonna be during Christmas. So we're gonna have to figure out how to handle that. And then I think that also means that it's during New Year's. So we'll come up with a solution there. But one of the great things about being here, same time, same place for 72 consecutive weeks is hopefully people make it part of their routine. So for anybody that does, for anybody that puts it on their calendar and blocks it off and spends it with us, whether you're proactive in the panel or just hanging out in the audience, man, can't tell you how much it means to me. Just week after week, every now and then, I take a step back and just have overwhelming appreciation for all the people that care enough about Gamified to make it part of their routine. But with that being said, man, I'll give it another 60 seconds or so, then we'll jump in with some introductions.
I feel like we're all on an elevator right now. We don't know each other, and we're just like, so. Do we have to stop at floor three, or can we just bump it up to down to one already?
Those awkward looks you make at each other, like,
Yeah,
do I try and start conversation for this like 30
yeah.
seconds?
Koji's kid screaming, Paul in his sweatpants.
I was the one who farted, just so you know.
I'm definitely wearing sweatpants right now. It's not a myth. It's reality.
Do
I've
you
been
own
trying.
jeans, Paul?
Yeah, actually, I do, and I actually have a pair here, but I don't see why I would put them on. I can't think of a situation that would require me to put them on at this point. But I have them just in case. I guess if you show up, I'll wear them for you if you want. But by the way,
Paul's
I'm
got
in.
that fuck you money that he can just wear sweats and wear the fuck he
Yeah,
wants.
that's
Okay, but
yup,
my
exactly.
favorite thing is I found sweat shorts. Okay, first of all, let me give you all like this is for you Gatorade drinkers out there like me. Um, the public rec, they're expensive, but man, they make sweatpants that nobody can tell are really sweatpants. And now they have these sweat shorts that are kind of like the exact same thing but just cut off. And even Katie, even Wild Kate is like, yeah, you can wear those. Those are all right. And she's my biggest critic when it comes to what I'm wearing. So yeah, go Gatorade and public rec. Those are the two things I'm showing here today.
Formal
Two core
sweatpants.
tenants.
Sweatshorts and Web3 gaming of the future.
Yes, yes.
Flashbacks to consensus Tony wearing nothing but AVAX Crocs, sweatpants, and tank tops, shrapnel tank tops the entire week. Absolutely one of my favorite things, Tony. Also a legend. We got to get him back on the show one of these days. But first, brace yourselves for a whirlwind of wit and wizardry. Our first guest, is a charismatic chieftain who's mastered the mystical marketplace of Magic Eden. This RuneScape enthusiast has spent countless hours mining, crafting, and slaying his way to glory in Gelnor. And as the architect behind the rise of Soren 11 esports, he built esports champions from the ground up, turning raw talent into polished professionals. He's the emperor of esports, the maven of Magic Eden. It's Knock. Knock, why the hell do I keep trying to pronounce things in RuneScape? I need you to give me like a pronunciation sheet.
I was actually going to give you shit for it, but since you did it, we'll cut to a really quick anecdote about esports since you mentioned it. I just had a team, I'm not going to name the team. Kids got in a fight after playing video games all night, being late for practice, and then storming out on his team during scrims. This just happened. This is a real team in a major esport. Esport doesn't fucking change. It never changes. It's always the same shit.
Oh, Fader's turning on everybody.
Sounds like Web 2 is dead, ladies and gentlemen. Up next, this formidable figure has left the firehouse to fan the flames of fortune, setting the financial world ablaze with his fiery flair. Feel the fervor as we introduce a true titan of transformation, a fearless force of physical fortitude, and the flaming phoenix of the boardroom. Representing Uptick, it's the mastermind with the Midas touch. It's the fantastic, the formidable. It's Jerry Fresco Singer.
Hey, what's going on? Thank you for that intro, Sam. Dude, Sam, I went to the minor league stadium the other day, and they have a mac and cheese that is insane, dude. And a brisket, insane. We have to go soon.
Jerry's favorite thing is telling me about great food that's nearby that I can't eat because I'm allergic to everything. It's
Dude, all right. I totally forgot about. Well, you can have the brisket, dude.
Hell yeah, turn up. I'll see you there, brother. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourselves for a powerhouse of perseverance and peak performance. This prodigious panelist is the paragon of precision. He's not just an entrepreneur, he's a perpetual pioneer, propelling businesses to unparalleled prominence. From scaling sheer cliffs to scaling startups, he's perpetually pushed the boundaries of possibilities and prowess. With a portfolio packed with phenomenal feats, this perceptive prodigy has piloted more projects than he's had days on this earth, perfecting the art of perseverance and profitability. So hold on to your harness and prepare for a paradigm shift, because here comes the prime purveyor of progress, the prince of product in parallel. It's Koji Nagata.
Hey, thanks for having me, Sam. Yeah, I don't have I don't have anything witty or funny to say, and I don't have any foods to offer you that you can't eat. So, yeah, I'm not sure how I fit in this week, but thanks for having me nonetheless.
Not a requirement. It's okay, big dog. Despite the industry's best efforts to break this next panelist's will, he's the Spartan of Web3 gaming, having conquered over 300 titles. As dawn broke, Team Shrapnel recognized his prowess and snapped him up, knowing they had found a true champion. From pulling off 360s on the slopes to pulling off 360 no scopes in the Nuketown of Web3, he's snatching dubs from the jaws of defeat since the dawn of time. Welcome back to the panel. It's the sharpshooter of Shrapnel, the undisputed king of controllers. The redemption arc continues with Dub.
Oh my God, a new intro. Paul might put his pants on, boy. I can't even wait. So psyched to be here. Excited for STX 3.1. I'm on my way to Brazil, and right after that, we're heading to ECC. I can't freaking wait. Let's go, Sam.
The grind never stops for this man, boundless energy. And up next, get ready to leap into the future with a gaming gecko who shed his old Web 2 skin and now slithers into the wild world of Web 3. He reigns supreme as the chief ETH Lizard officer at Lizard Labs. This digital dynamo is attempting to rewrite the rules of gaming infrastructure by building the mullet of Web 3 gaming, all business in the front and a wild party in the back. Always a Web3 gaming evangelist, sometimes a degen and a shit poster, this gecko of greatness is here to shake things up. So let's welcome back to the panel the Sultan of Scales and Scaling. It's Animositas.
Sam, thank you so much. So listen, I was taking a drink when Jerry made the elevator comment, and I've literally been choking ever since. So if I can't speak the entire panel, it's totally his fault. I'm going to claim I'm just so passionate about Web3, I get choked up, and we'll leave it at that.
Not the first time Jerry has maybe physically actually killed somebody on this panel. Up next, this legendary leader sculpted the skyline of success, transforming Macau into the shimmering shore of the East. His bold bets and brilliant buffs outshine the savage spheres of casinos, commerce, and competition with poker stars Alibaba and Team Liquid, respectively. Now he's setting his sights on a scintillating new saga with My Angry Yakuza Girlfriend, blending the strange with the sensationally stylish. So strap in with the Titan of Taboo, the founder who can't be bought. It's Sinjin David Jung.
Sam, thank you for the new intro. I mean, I know how long it takes you to make these things, so thank you so much for that. And yeah, I'm always happy to be here, and I'm fully caffeinated up for my 3 a.m. run here, so let's get it on.
What an absolute beast, dude. I can't believe the Iron Man streak continues. What a fucking god. Up next, rejecting the rigmarole of investment banking, he rumbled through the ranks and had the stones to leap into the decentralized developments, both physically and literally. He's full throttle into the future at Stardust, forcing us into the fray whether we like it or not. Not just navigating, but mastering the multiverse of marketing. He's the wizard of wallet sales, the overworld, or the overlord of outreach, the strongman of Stardust. It's Wills.
Can I just say I've never been so honored to, one, be on a Twitter Spaces, and two, be wearing sweatshorts. So it's two starts for me. And yeah,
Let's
awesome, super
go!
excited.
You're in great company, brother. You're in great company. This is one of the few days I actually wore real pants, and now I feel left out. So maybe after the intros, I'll switch it out just so I can be part of the cool club. Up next, ladies and gentlemen, prepare to be positively paralyzed by the prowess of our next panelist. A pioneering prodigy, he propelled the Age of Empires franchise to peak popularity and spelled out domination with the mobile marvel Words with Friends. This paragon of programming didn't just plant his flag in the digital domain, he perpetually pushes a panorama of possibilities on the pulsating world of Web3. With pixel perfect power and precision, he's the patriarch of programming, as prolific as the Romans, with Microsoft and Zynga pestering him for his projects. As Wildcard approaches its 7th year of development, he prepares to plunge into the promising province of Web3 gaming with unparalleled passion and potential. He's the Paul Bettner.
What's up? And next week's intro better have sweatpants in it or sweat something somewhere to really fulfill this arc. I can't believe how many gamifieds we've been doing together. I, as you guys know, as we've talked about, I am incredibly thrilled for the second half of this year. We are here in Utah at the moment with the wildcard team doing another offsite, onsite, whatever thing to prepare for the insane shit that's happening on the Wildcard project in the second half of 2024. I really, really appreciate the fans that we have accumulated up until now. A lot of folks that I see here, friends of the Wildcard project. I want to shout out to the Falcons, who we love, and we finally had a chance to meet in person and spend more time with. And I'm just looking forward to what's coming.
Looking forward to that myself. I got a little bit of a sneak peek of what Wildcard's been working on, and it is awesome, but no spoilers for now. Our next guest is a powerful partner at Bitcraft Ventures, where he steers the firm's crypto strategy, having backed major Web3 projects like Immutable, Sequence, Yield Guild Games, Karate Combat, and more. Before Bitcraft, he was a key player at Eldridge, where he played pivotal roles in over $1 billion worth of investments with assets like Epic Games and Formula One. Plus, he believes the golden age of golf is all but gone and says Call of Duty is the new fairway. Welcome to the panel, the Capital Commander, the asset aficionado. It's Carlos Pereira.
It's the best introduction I've got in my life, and I hope my mom hears this and knows how to introduce me going forward.
Setting the standards for moms for decades. That's how people introduce me in multiple ways, boys. Whether he's scuttling through the latest hot topics or basking in the spotlight of our stage, this reptilian regular is always a step ahead. Weighing in at 2.4 pounds, he's the little lizard legend who leaves a Godzilla-sized impression. It's my co-host with the most. It's Lambs.
GM, everyone. How's it going? I also pinned a tweet to the top from Matt Defies. Sam said if we want Wolf Den next year, he needs like 500 likes on his post. I think he's engagement farming us, but we should probably hit that.
I didn't expect it to get this out of control. I was just feeling nostalgic and, I love the boys. All right, a couple more intros for our beloved sponsors, then we're jumping into topic number one. Do you hear that in the distance? The rumble of inevitability rolling down the mountaintop like an avalanche, aka the official blockchain of Gamified, with its spectacular speed and scalability, skillfully simplifying the sophisticated science of subnets. They allow avant-garde architects and game gurus to craft their cutting-edge creations. It stands as a steadfast sentinel in the storm, driving the dawn of decentralized gaming with a dynamic, durable, and decidedly different approach. We love AVAX around here, and built on Avalanche is none other than Shrapnel, a marvel of mayhem meticulously manifested that isn't just redefining the rules of the FPS arena, it's an extraction shooter that's tearing through the terrain of traditional gaming. With STX 3.1 on the horizon that Dub alluded to happening in Brazil, the beta launch of their Discord game, The Lunatics, Shrapnel is a gateway to prizes when paired with their Shrap token or an operator. So if you're ready to dive into a domain where your daring deeds are duly rewarded, enlist today and earn metal, quest with Moku, and have your strategies stretch beyond the screen. Thanks to Shrapnel, the official game of Gamified, which is powered by Stardust. Stardust is lighting the way with its wallets as a service offering, a marvel of modern technology that melts away the mayhem of managing digital assets, making every user's experience as smooth as silk. This isn't just convenience, it's revolution, redefining the user experience of your game with the touch of a button. This is where powerhouse projects pivot from potential to powerhouse again, because I read that wrong, with an unparalleled prowess of Stardust wallet and user acquisition alchemy. Thank you to Stardust, the official infrastructure of Gamified. Love you guys. All right, we're jumping in with what's the word on an easy one. This is a slam dunk, okay? Give me the word that represents banana, almost breaking records for concurrent active users on Steam with 850,000 people playing this damn game at the same time. Pixels, had 1 million daily active wallets. We dismissed it because it was financially incentivized. Hamster Combat, 100 million users, now 150 million. We dismissed it because it was financially incentivized. But now we got Banana on Steam, a Web 2 game that is at least not financially incentivized on the surface level. People seem to be playing it for the memes. But okay, we'll add a little context here. Every few hours, you do get a banana drop. These can be common bananas that are just worth, pennies on Steam. But if you get a rare, like a diamond banana, these do sell for sometimes $100, a couple $100. Still not that crazy compared to the Web3 counterparts, but it is some financialization. Either way, it's an idle clicker that's basically still breaking records. So what's the word for this phenomenon? My apologies. I don't know what order the hands went up. I'm sending it over to Koji to kick us off.
Yeah, the word is money laundering. I actually don't know that to be the case, but uh, look, man, the word is Web3 is very much alive. Everyone wants to farm bullshit. They just don't know that they can do it in Web3 yet. So we just need to convert those banana users to the blockchain, and we'll be good. But all joking aside, I mean, yeah, I think it just proves that like farming is very much a thing, and that if people find an asymmetric or what they believe to be an asymmetric advantage and a way to make money, then they're going to do it. Now, the question is, who is buying the skins for this game? I still don't know the answer to that question, which is, leads me back to money laundering. I'm kind of kidding, but maybe I'm not. It just seems insane to me. That's all.
That's actually one of the single best explanations I've heard so far for this. Wow, Paul, let's send it over to you, brother.
Yeah, my word is very similar to Koji saying. My word is universal, meaning that the behavior that we all love and participate in Web3 as degens and Web3 native users, crypto native users, is in fact universal. And what I saw while we were watching this banana thing take off and we were all laughing about it and sharing it as a team amongst each other was like, hey, look, it's a bunch of like degens that don't know they're degens yet. They're just Steam users, and they found out how to degen using the Steam marketplace, and they're like, this is the best thing ever. Like, this is super fun. Let's do this. And if they just knew what a wallet was and what a blockchain was, they would realize that they could do that at 1,000x the scale, on a blockchain. But they haven't discovered that yet, and they're happy to just do it on Steam. They just basically found out a way to hijack Steam's infrastructure and the Steam marketplace infrastructure to do that same universal behavior that people love, and look, it works. So I think my answer for it is universal. Everybody can have fun with those types of mechanics, and our job, and in fact, what we're really really excited about, what we're working on with Wildcard, especially, is bringing more people into and more places into that type of environment, and really bringing that type of fun to a much larger audience than is just necessarily the ones that currently have a Web3 wallet.
Great stuff from Mr. Paul Bettner. Let's go to Knock next.
If I recall, about 5 or 6 episodes ago, somebody told me that there is no world in which a Web 2 player will ever play a clicker. And I argued for Cookie Clicker, and here we are a month and a half later, and Banana is the second most played game on Steam. So, in 2 words, I'll say I'm right. But in a real answer, I'll say nefarious. This is actually some really interesting, really shady shit, potentially shady shit, that is going on around this game. Moist Critical or Penguins on YouTube did like a whole deep dive on this, on what is actually happening here. But the basic TLDR is there are a bunch of people botting the shit out of this game and leaving it open at all times in an effort to increase the likelihood that they get a rare banana skin in one of those like every couple hour types of drops. So the player count is incredibly artificial and incredibly inflated. But it gets weirder than that. You can't even equip these banana skins, so they don't fucking do anything at all. They're just items that you can hold within your Steam inventory. And then a step further, the actual developer of this game has his Steam inventory hidden. So there are some conversations about whether or not these are actual users trading it as peer to peer, or if this is just the developer dumping a bunch of items and banana skins that you can no longer get in game into the open market and double dipping on the funds that they're earning from this game. So I'm right, but also maybe there's some shady shit going on here that is just absolutely it deserves like a whole 2 hour long episode in and of itself. But go watch the video Moist Critical on YouTube.
Dude, Moist Critical is an absolute gem, and that's crazy. I didn't know you couldn't even equip the skins. I figured, oh, maybe people are buying them because they're streaming and they want to have the diamond banana on the screen. No, clearly not. Jerry, your thoughts?
The word is simulation, which is what we live in. Because not only are people playing this game, people up here are fucking talking about it like it's fun. Specifically using the word fun, I played it for like 30 seconds and wanted to punch myself in the face. Listen, I think I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned from this, and I think like what you've seen in some indie studio games that have popped off in this year is that like memeability and virality need to be at the front of everything that you're doing and need to be something that you're thinking about constantly. And I think that this is kind of it's a really dumb thing. I think it's a banana clicker is kind of stupid, but I think like the fact that they chose a banana over like a tangerine or something, there's a lot in that, I think, right? And so um and the other games we talk about all the time, like Helldivers and Pal World, right? There's virality baked into those things, and so I think there is a lot of lessons to be learned. But again, I think this is like one of those times where you all went to an opium den without me, and I feel like the only sane person.
For the record, I haven't played it at all, and I still want to punch Jerry in the face. So I don't know what that means.
And he has tattoos, so he can punch.
Explain that science. Animositas, what's the word for the banana game on Steam?
Okay, mine's hyphenated. The word is herd mentality. People will do anything as long as they see other people doing the same thing, right? We know this is true. Virality is all about getting those dopamine shots that someone else helps give you right off the bat, and then being able to continue going for that next hit. No big surprise that something this silly has gone viral. We've seen this time and time again in Web3. The tech makes it easier to monetize in Web3 versus this sort of Web2 hack. But Web3 is inevitable because many, many more games are going to take the same approach of simple gameplay loops that monetize the dopamine shots that we as humans need.
Great stuff. Sinjin tagging you in, Big Dog. What's the word?
Lottery. A lot of people are surprised, but if you were to say like in online gambling, what is the biggest sector of even like just gambling in general? It's lotteries. It's actually classified as gambling, and whenever you get access to a new market with a lottery product or any gambling product, it just fucking kills. So kudos to the developers in the sense that they kind of circumvented the process here, but yeah. Nothing special, to be honest.
Great stuff. Wills from Stardust. What's your word, Big Dog?
My word, and this is directed at a lot of the journalism outlets reporting on this phenomenon, is hypocrisy. Because sort of over the past 10 minutes while listening to all of these amazing speakers, I looked up banana because I was a little bit out of the loop. And the first article that comes up, the last word talks about how it's oozing of this pump and dump to the moon energy. But hey, at least it's not NFTs, is the line that it ends with, which just cracks me up because it's absurd to think that people are looking at stuff like this and not actually seeing that this is a problem that can be solved. So like the way that this is being manipulated, and it's completely untraceable. We have no idea where this has come from, what's going on. Like I agree with all the words that other people have said, but it's just hilarious to me how people are using this as an opportunity to bash Web3 gaming, because it just shows how the market sentiment from at least the journalism perspective hasn't really shifted as much as we'd hope.
Great stuff. And Calbear in the audience says, "Is nobody going to use this opportunity to say it's bananas?" That's a good one. All right, Dub from Shrapnel.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's bananas, but thanks, Sam.
Guys, that's low hanging fruit.
Fuck, dude.
Nice.
Oh
That's
God.
real awkward. But I just also came to let Koji know that I'm the one that's buying all the rare bananas. It's me. And I'll keep doing it too as long as I can afford these diamond bananas. I'm picking them up.
No one was surprised by that statement. Let's go to Lems and then over to Wild Paul.
All right, before I give my word, can someone please keep some receipts from when Knock is wrong? Because he likes to remind us when he's right. I feel like we need some receipts for the
Oh, we
times
got
when he's
Never.
wrong.
Never.
My word is deja vu. They're just 3 or 4 years behind us. It's basically like 2020, 2021. We have Steam NFTs now. That's what's going on. And to answer Koji's question, I think it's the same thing that they think when we are buying $10,000 NFTs. It's like, greater fool's theory. Who the hell is buying this shit? But who knows? Someone's doing it.
I love that. That's so exactly right.
If
Like it was the hypocrisy comment that got me. Like someday it's gonna be like, guys, remember how we were selling those things on the Steam marketplace and it wasn't that great? Well, there's this new marketplace called Magic Eden. You could sell your bananas to way more users. They have way more money. Holy shit. And then they rediscover it. We go through this whole cycle again. I just wanted to build on Nock's comment. So if either you have already been addicted to an idle game in your life or more than one, or you are going to. There is no middle ground. There is no oh, I've never and I would never play an idle game. Yeah, you just haven't experienced one yet. It's just like the most pure form of game dopamine kind of release that exists. Is just to sit there and watch a number go up and click an action every once in a while that makes the number go up even faster, and it's really powerful actually as a game design primitive. So I just wanted to tell you guys this quick story. We started working on this game a long time ago. This is back way before Wildcard, and we want to do a Minecraft like game. And we started working on a prototype for it, and we're like, oh my gosh, man, this is gonna be a lot of work. It's gonna take us a while until we can even begin, our designers can even begin to build the economy and the items and all the things for this, because it's going to take the engineers time to build the game engine. So what are we going to have our designers do in the meantime? And we're like, okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to build a text-based Minecraft idle game where you just have this, you just take actions like chop tree, and then that gives you some resources and those numbers go up or whatever. And we built that game in just a few weeks so that the designers could begin to populate that game with data that would eventually end up in our Minecraft like game. And it destroyed our studio for a week. Like nobody could stop playing the stupid text game, and they were begging our engineers to please just build more of the text game. And eventually we had to shut it down, and we actually made it open source, turned it over to the community, because we're like, stop, we're not building an idle Minecraft game, like text game. We're not, that's not our thing. But anyway, yeah, it's really fun. They're fun games. They're fun to build. They're inherently sticky, and so it's a great formula. And I just wanted to build on that comment that Knock made, that idle games are actually kind of great when they're done well.
So even in Web 2, even when there's no money attached to it, number
Doesn't
go up
matter.
is still the ultimate utility. I just want to see you.
Exactly.
I just want to go from 10 bananas to 11. What can I say? Animositas, I'll give you the last word, then we move on.
Yeah, I'll just point out, at least in Web3, we were one level up the food chain. We had apes. They just have apes food that they're launching here first. Okay, that's it.
And also referring back to Paul's favorite pants, Katie Drake Bettner. Don't worry, she's in the comments with the link. If you want some Daymaker men's heather navy colored shorts, we got you covered. Don't worry about it. Make sure that's a referral link. I know you guys need the additional 20 cents that you'll get from that. Up next, over under Nintendo Switch has become the best selling console in Japan's history. 33 million units sold for the Switch 2. According to the publication's estimates, sales of Nintendo Switch in the country have surpassed 33 million units sold. The previous record was held by the Nintendo DS with 32.86 million systems. Nintendo Switch is selling faster as well. It only took 377 weeks, whereas the DS took 425 weeks. My question for the panel, though, over under, will the Switch 2, which is coming out next year, break this record? Can the sequel be even better than the predecessor? Mr. Wild Paul had to hand up first.
Of course, it's gonna break the record, but obviously, of course, I'm the biggest Nintendo fanboy, so you got to take it with the bias that comes with hearing this from me. But let me make my case. Nintendo is at their absolute top of their game right now, except for Pokemon. We're not going to talk about Pokemon, but every other Nintendo franchise is just killing it, right? Like we're dying for the next Mario Kart. You guys are going to lose your mind for that game. For the next Smash Brothers, holy shit, that game's going to sell 400 zillion copies. So every Nintendo cylinder is firing right now. And the only caveat I would give this is I haven't seen all the things that the Switch 2 is going to be and it's going to do. And so there are certain things that I think we all wish that it would have, like backwards compatibility with the Switch library, like just other things that Nintendo hasn't announced or confirmed, that maybe is going to make a difference, but they just have nailed this formula. And the fact that the sort of leaked news is that it is a Switch 2, meaning that it's building on the same formula of being a portable device that also functions as your home console, which is a killer formula nobody else has been able to pull off as well as Nintendo, coupled with these just top tier Nintendo franchises, and Nintendo as a developer and as a publisher and as a creator is firing on all cylinders across these franchises, meaning that like their internal teams just put out the best games now. And it's not just one team that's doing this. They have several teams that are the best development teams in the industry. You couple that with the killer form factor of the Switch and just better hardware and the known Switch brand already and the built up anticipation for this, they are going to blow the Switch 1 out of the water, even though that was their most successful platform already. Unless I don't even know how that could possibly change. So that's my take. 100% over. They're just gonna blow away. It's gonna be the most popular console of all time by far.
Damn, I'm genuinely surprised to hear this. Lems and I were talking about it before the show, and I was like, yeah, but a bunch of people already have it, and they're probably going to say, no, it's good enough for our family that we have the Switch 1, whatever, whatever. Maybe you age out of it. I'm going to send it to Wills from Stardust, then we're going to tag in Carlos from Bitcraft.
I'm gonna go with under to completely contradict all of Paul's hype. Despite also being a massive Nintendo fan and a huge fan, and 100% agree with absolutely everything that he said. There are so many reasons that it should be the best thing ever, the best thing since sliced bread. But Nintendo is crazy. They're wild. They do awesome, nuts things with their consoles, and that's what's kept them alive over the past few years. If you would have told us that, like, after the Wii U, they were going to create the Switch, which has become the greatest selling console of all time. Who even owned a Wii U? I don't think I think I know one person who owned a Wii U.
Unfortunately, I'll raise my hand on that one, and I haven't
I
bought a
know
It was
Nintendo
two
ahead of its
people
system
who
time.
since.
own a Wii
Here come
U.
the Wii U defenders. Don't even go there.
No,
But
no, no,
this is
no, no. I'm not
exactly
defending shit. It sucked.
I
what I'm
fucking love
saying.
the Wii U,
What's
fucker.
the
The
next step
Wii
gonna
U
be?
walked so the Switch could fly.
That's right.
Exactly. Exactly. And I want to see, I really want to see Nintendo fly. And in order to do that, as we've seen, they have to take crazy risks. And
I
I
just
think that they're going to use that they're going to use that success to do, like, if it is, yes, a Switch 2, but they're not going to do nothing with it. It's not just going to be like an OLED Switch. It's going to be, there's going to be something big that makes it different. It may have the
I
same
just have to say
formula.
I 100% agree with you, but I just think you're probably one cycle off. I think Nintendo, I think that analogy that they just used, which is the Wii U walked so the Switch could fly, and the Switch flew so that the Switch 2 can go to the fucking moon. That's what's gonna happen. But then Nintendo is gonna do their thing, and they're gonna reinvent it with some crazy shit that's probably gonna totally whiff. But that's just like the cycle after this one, in my opinion.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree with I agree with all of that. But then my final and closing argument is Breath of the Wild. If you don't have Breath of the Wild, you're not going to do it.
Yeah, they're gonna need an absolutely massive IP day one to get it out the door. I do agree with both of you. Actually, I think Paul is right though. It's probably gonna be pretty standard because they know they can absolutely slam dunk the second generation of this console. I see Knock throwing some thumbs down. I'm gonna send it to Carlos from Bitcraft first, then we'll tag in Knock to see what he's on one about.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think I was going to go with like a strong under, and then Paul's pitch is so fucking good that I was going to change my mind. But then luckily, there's some support for the under, so I'll just keep believing whatever I believed before. In all seriousness, though, right? Like when I think about there's less innovation from terms of form. There's the Breath of the Wild point, and then I mean, a lot of people who bought the Switch for that on-the-go fun gaming. Which look, there's not a lot of people, right? A bunch of them have it because they want to play it at home or the family or like that whole consumer. But certainly, like a chunk of the consumer for the Switch, I think, were people who wanted an awesome gaming experience on the go. And there's been a lot of encroachment on that gaming experience on the go, although a little bit more hardcore, right? But like you've seen, not just like with Steam Deck, right? But like the Rock Gaming, whatever, phones keep getting better. And so I don't know if there's been enough new consumers to make up for fragmentation of options for those that just wanted great gaming experiences on the go. And I don't know how much innovation you can have between the two, and then you don't have a big title pushing it out. So, but look, Paul's fucking pitch is amazing, and maybe I'm totally wrong. As a matter of fact, I expect to be totally wrong, but I had already raised my hand, so I had to stick with it.
We love contrasting opinions here. That's what it's all about. Appreciate you chiming in, Carlos. Let's see what Knock is cooking up with those thumbs downs.
Yeah, I want to start with saying like I'm a slave to Nintendo. I buy all kinds of shit. I literally just ordered 4 Switch Pro controllers so that I can play with my friends when they come over instead of using the shitty little Joy-Cons. So get that out of the way. I love the games that they create, but let's be real here. This is Nintendo. They do the bare fucking minimum with everything except for Zelda every time they release something. If you look at their handheld consoles, here it is in black and white. Now here it is in color. Now here it is sideways. Now it folds. Now it folds a little bit bigger. Now it folds a little bit smaller. Now it folds a little bit bigger again. And then they release the fucking Switch, and then they're like, psych, hey, we need a smaller on the go version of the Switch. So they released the fucking Game Boy Advanced again in the Switch Lite. Like they just recycle the same shit. And I think that if they go backwards compatible, there is no reason for me to buy a Switch 2 because if I wanted to play a game on a console that has shitty fucking hardware that can barely play the game and takes a beautiful, amazing game like any of the 2 Zelda games that have come out over the last 6 years and then says, hey, now you have to play it on 12 fucking frames and it looks 8-bit, like I can just play that on the Switch 1. There's no reason for me to buy a Switch 2, just like I didn't buy the Switch OLED. I made the mistake of buying the Switch Lite, which, like I said, takes away the one thing that makes the Switch, which is the fucking Joy-Cons, and says, here's the Game Boy Advance. I disagree with the fact that Nintendo is willing to be innovative. Fuck, with their Nintendo Direct 3 days ago, it was like everybody else, here's this big story, and Nintendo's like, fuck it. We're going to do a live stream tomorrow. Half the translations don't make any sense. For one in every 3 fucking video game trailers, there's just going to be the trailer with busted audio and absolutely no context into what this game is. And then we're just going to go to the next one. I think Nintendo it does the bare minimum when it comes to a lot of things. I think they create great games, but when you look at titles like Pokemon and even the Mario Kart series, or just any of the Mario games, it's the same game recycled. It's like, here's Mario Tennis. Now here it is 10 years later. And then here's Mario Golf. And now here it is 10 years later. And here's all 4 games in one game. But now 15 years later, we're going to break them down into individual titles. Like they just recycle shit. I think the Switch 2 is going to sell well, but you've got one of the best, I think it's the best performing console of all time, unless they have hardware that will compete with next gen consoles in PS5 and Xbox X or S, or they do something that is wildly different with the form factor. I think most people, like myself, will just opt to keep the Switch One and play all those great games on shit quality hardware at a lower price tag.
Oh, I love the passion in this one, boys and girls. Make me all excited. I gotta say though, they did delay the Switch, so it makes me think maybe they are trying to do something a little bit more interesting than just recycling the same old bullshit. Wild Paul seems to be in support of that. Jerry, I know, was pro Switch too. Jerry, your thoughts on this one?
Dude, it is going to way oversell. Sam, let me give me a second. I need to Van Gogh something, right? For anybody who is an adult who's ever made love, right? There's 2 types of lovers, right?
Jesus Christ.
There's people who just present what they have, man or woman, and say, "I'm presenting this, and this is what you get." And then there's people who do foreplay. And there's people who get into it, who have fucking passion. And Nintendo has fucking passion and they do foreplay. Nock is mad because he spent a bunch of money on shit he didn't need to, but Nintendo does foreplay. We know what kind of lover Nock is. Nock, I hope you're never single, buddy. I'm fucking up your Tinder profile. It's over for you, dog. Nintendo gets into it. They do what needs to be done. They don't have the best equipment, but they're the best lover you ever had because they have passion. Everything, they're firing on all cylinders right now. They nailed the form factor and everybody else is trying to copy it, right? Everybody has since tried to release a handheld. Every game that they've put out from their IP has been incredibly well received. Started with Breath of the Wild, went on to Tears of the Kingdom, but Mario Kart is fucking killing it. Fire Emblem is killing it. Pikmin, if you're like Paul into that weird fucking game, fucking best Pikmin game that they've put out in a long time. They are absolutely firing on all cylinders right now. It's a well-oiled machine, and we are looking at a company who is not just taking shots on goal; they're fucking burying them through. And we're gonna think that's just gonna stop all of a sudden. That there's not going to be a Tears of the Kingdom for the Switch 2. That they nail that every product cycle with their first party IPs, right? We think that that's just going to stop when a company that's finally starting to perfect it, and they have their hooks in everybody. Everybody goes for when they upgrade. We all get. I skipped PS5. I won't even think about skipping Nintendo. So I think it's going to way oversell. I think it's going to be another console that pushes things forward, and people. We're talking about a fucking clicker game. AAA, like we talk about AAA all the time on this. Equipment doesn't need to be the best. It doesn't. The games don't need to be the most high fidelity. People are playing. 800,000 people right now are playing a fucking clicker game. We think they're not going to want like a cozy sim.
The comments are lighting up after that one, Jerry. I think you've swayed a few
And Sam,
people.
can I put the official call in again for the Sexified show so that Jerry has a place to channel all this energy that he tries to bring to every Gamified? So I just wanted to officially request that again.
Yeah, no problem. Maybe we'll do like a 1 a.m. show
Yeah,
once a
exactly.
week on a
We'll smoke
Tuesday night.
cigars and cigarettes. So Sinjin and Koji will be there.
Yeah, you guys can blow off some steam together, and then Wednesday we'll be all worked out from, from all that. All right, Koji, we're gonna work our way through these hands, and we're gonna move on to the next topic. Let's go to Koji.
Okay, first of all, I think Jerry just won MVP, and if anyone votes otherwise, you guys are out of your fucking mind. Number two, I love you, but you are not serious people. Anyone who thinks that this console isn't going to outsell the previous console is out of their fucking minds. Like by a huge margin. You are absolutely insane. And this kind of goes to Knox's point. They build subpar shit, but it doesn't matter. Like their consoles are generations behind other consoles, and it doesn't fucking matter because everyone wants those new games. And they released another Breath of the Wild, another Mario Kart, another like name a title that people are obsessed with. It's fucking Smash Bros. Like that, those consoles are flying off the shelves. Man children all over the world are gonna flock to their latest GameStop, after they're done buying the stock and fucking buy the consoles. Like you guys are crazy. I, the like hint alone that we might get another uh, first party Nintendo game, you can name it. Punch Out even would probably sell some consoles. You know what I'm saying? Like they have such a stranglehold on with some of these games that it is crazy. And like I'm not even a Nintendo guy. I don't play any of their games really, and yet somehow I own every single one of their consoles. So I think that's just a testament right there.
Well, what kind of episode of Gamified is it if Koji doesn't call me a dumbass on my own show at least one time? Let's go to Lems, then we'll go to Sinjin.
All right, I will agree that Jerry just had an amazing speech, but I would also like to shine some light on the fact that Jerry loves the GameCube, which was, a resounding L, I think, across the whole panel. So I agree with some of the points. I was coming into this under. I think Paul made a great pitch for why it could be over. But let's look at like when did Nintendo actually release two record-breaking consoles back to back? Like at the start, you mentioned Sam that like the Nintendo DS was the previous record, right? Like, are they really going to run two back to back? I mean, it's possible if they have some lead title that's really good and that causes people to upgrade. But there was a massive jump between the Wii and the Switch, right? You're going from the Wii and the shitty Wii U, which we kind of talked about, to the Switch, and having that portable device that basically, is like a Steam Deck, but you can also plug it into your TV and play the games on your TV. I think that's a massive step up as opposed to like having a second generation of that. It's possible if things aren't backwards compatible and they force people to upgrade, they might outdo it, but I'd be a bit on the skeptical side of that.
Well said, Lems. Great point on the back-to-backs. Let's go to Sinjin, Knock, and then we'll give Wild Paul the mic to finish up this topic before we move on.
I don't know whether it will be over, but like to say that Nintendo's not going to perform is kind of ludicrous. And I guess the point that I want to make is that Nintendo's really mommy approved. Okay, like my house and my wife knew that she knew that she was gonna that I was a gamer through and through, right? And so we have like whatever, like 5 gaming laptops, 2 gaming PCs, PS4, PS5, X, whatever, Xbox One or whatever like that, Xbox X. But my other friends who are like normies and their wives actually are anti-gaming, right? They have no problem with their husbands buying a Nintendo like product, right? So for every family that's new where their dad wasn't able to buy the Nintendo, whatever like this, and then they can say this is more upgraded, whatever like that, I think there's always going to be a solid market for them. In fact, one of the reasons why I had a Nintendo Wii was because my nephews and nieces, they could come over and they could play that without bothering me, right? So like I think there's definitely a place for it, and I think Nintendo, they're very deliberate. So well, let's see. The market's getting shittier anyways, but I have high hopes for Nintendo always.
Man, I wish the Switch was coming out right now so we could all just wait out the little bear cycle here with some Nintendo gameplay. Let's send it to Knock and then Wild Paul, 30 seconds each.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's not a single instance in which a Nintendo released a new form factor and the second or third iteration of that form factor outsold the original. The DS outsold any version of the DS that came after it. The Game Boy outsold any version of the Game Boy that came after it. The Wii outsold any of the versions of the Wii that came after it. I don't see why the Switch will be any different. And the reason for it is that the form factor does not change. If I want to play my Switch games and they make it backwards compatible like every other version of Nintendo has been forever, there's no reason for me to upgrade my hardware in a marginal sense. Like when you moved to the DS, you had a different form factor of console. When you moved to Wii, you had a different form factor of what the games were being played and how things were being played. And then from Switch, you had that again. I don't see that happening here. So I just don't see hundreds of millions of people buying a console that is marginally better from a hardware perspective. Is it going to sell? Absolutely. Will Nintendo continue to dominate? Yes, but there's no instance of the second version outselling the original in any of their consoles.
Inclined to agree with you there, Big Dog. All right, Wild Paul, finish us off.
I get that argument, but one of my favorite things about the fact that I'm in my late 40s now is how many times in my life I've been able to be right about Nintendo. So even if I'm wrong, I just love taking that position because I have so many receipts going back years now about having this exact same conversation about some new Nintendo console. We haven't seen the Switch 2. We're all speculating that it's just going to be. I remember. You guys remember this? Remember the phrase two GameCubes duct taped together that people were talking about the Switch and how fucking wrong they were about that? Oh, that was great. Oh, it was good being right about that one and having the receipts about that one. Anyway, let's see what happens. Also, Knock, who says Mario? What do you even
That
Thank
okay?
that
you.
false, that fake lover, that
You
passionless
know what it is?
lover.
You know what it is? I'm ESL and my girlfriend makes fun of me whenever I say anything with an Italian accent, so I try to anglicize all of my words. It's Mario, but I can't say that in my house because I'm gonna get made fun of.
Okay, that makes sense. And also, just Sam, I need to let you know that Katie texted me and said, "Wait, Gamified After Dark." I'm so there. I'll take that one.
Okay, I do have to say on that note, and I'll give Koji a brief second to speak on this as well if he wants to. We did cook up a game show that was specifically designed to be a late night, like blow off some steam, not talking about Web3 financialization bullshit. And it's been on ice for like 5 months. So maybe it's time for us to bring it out, Koji. You have the hand up too. I'll give you 15 seconds to finish off with the Switch 2 as well.
Sorry, I got caught up in the idea of Switch After Dark, sorry, of Gamified After Dark. But I think that the note, like, you got to remember, to Knox, like, to counterpoint Knock, the sort of like things have changed, right? Like, movies and music used to be the cultural touch point that everyone sort of gravitated around, and at the time of things like the GameCube and whatever other examples you want to throw out, like, that was still true. Now I feel like more than anything else, the sort of the one place that we find like homogenous culture is in video games. Like, that has overtaken movies and maybe even music to a large degree, more so than it ever has. So I think, like, if there's ever a chance that a new console, even if it's just a minor upgrade, can outstrip the existing console, it's now.
Great stuff, Koji. That was just a ton of fun as a topic. We kept having to push that one back because it was a little bit more evergreen. Obviously, the Switch 2 not coming for like another year, so we just kept being like, not enough time for this show, whatever. But I'm so glad we kept it in the rotation because that was a ton of fun. I love you guys. All right, we're moving on to the next topic. Over 70% of the largest gaming companies are making a play in Web3 gaming. Is this a big deal? According to a report by CoinGecko, 29 of the world's 40 largest gaming companies are investing in Web3, whether it's by developing their own blockchain games, investing in Web3 gaming projects, or hiring blockchain experts. We previously had a topic on this show maybe 20 weeks ago about Xbox having blockchain on their roadmap that leaked out. but people largely dismissed it as kind of a small deal because they're Xbox and Microsoft. Of course, they should somewhere on their roadmap have emerging technologies. So my question for the panel, is this just future proofing, or is this genuinely a big deal? Big deal, little deal, no deal. 70% of the largest gaming companies considering making a play in Web3. I'm going to send it over to Dub on this one first.
Yeah, I think it's genuinely a big deal, and I think it's like been like that though for a while. Like, I still laugh at this whole thing because I think about back to 3 years ago when I was at GDC and I was meeting with someone at Samsung about like a washing machine NFT for their metaverse play, and it's like they and that was back when like people were like, if any big brand like even talked about Web3, everyone freaked out, right? And this was like very behind the sheets and all that kind of stuff. And like it's these companies are all involved, they're all doing big things. They see that blockchain is going to be the same thing as free to play, where it's like you're obligated to include this technology 5 years or 10 years, whenever it happens. It's going to become an obligation, and they're just getting ready for that and trying to be the trendsetters in it as well.
I'm sorry to announce, guys, I'm going to be leaving Web3 gaming for Web3 appliances. It's been nice knowing you all. Washing machines to the moon. I'm going to tag in Mr. Wild Ball, then we'll go to Carlos from Big Craft.
I I don't know if you. I think people know that. Maybe they don't know this. Uh, those Web two folks, those Web two teams, those Web two companies, they're all like so secretly jealous of of those of us who get to be openly Web three. Like that's the reality. Like they wish that, and you've seen them, they've tried. Like we were talking last Gamify last week about the Discord example. Like Discord really wanted to have this Web3 native stuff and they really wanted to promote it, whatever. And then unfortunately, their audience, because of just today's perception of Web3, was ready to burn them to the ground for even mentioning it. So they had to back away from that. There are so many companies, so many stories like that right now. So behind those closed doors, they are desperate to get in this space. They're desperate to utilize this technology, and they are waiting for the wild cards of the world to finally make it a safe place to be, because gamers have a game, and the parallels and the shrapnel, like these other projects, to finally sort of get it right, convince gamers that this isn't an awful place. And the moment that happens, they're going to come running after it, and they're going to be like, yeah, we were planning this the whole time, and here's all our Web3 stuff. And they wish they could do that now. And the great news about all that, by the way, is that the early adopters and the folks that are there early get to plant a flag that is hard for those big companies to catch up on. You know, we've talked about this before. It just reminds me of mobile and like that sort of same thing that happened where at the time when those giant brands finally did show up, like the EAs or whatever, to mobile, it had created this opportunity for those small incumbent startups that were there earlier to plant that flag and to become these big brands. You know, the Supercells of the world were able to take on these giant companies like EA that had 1,000 times the budget, or Words of Friends being the other example in this case, and Zynga. And that same thing is happening again. And I promise you, though, as soon as the gamers show up, and they'll show up for great games, they don't care what they will show up for the great games. Then all those companies will pretend like this was their plan the whole time.
That's great stuff. You love to hear it. Hope that is indeed pervasive throughout the industry in Web 2. Let's send it over to Carlos from Bigcraft. Get that investor point of view. Your thoughts, big deal, little deal, no deal, about 70% of these game studios being involved in Web 3.
Big deal over the long term, little deal right now. I think that Paul's right that a lot of these companies want to do something in the space. I mean, back in 2021, 22, mostly 21, a bunch of them went in, announced projects that they were doing in house. And then, sort of, as equity markets went down, people were worried about cost cutting. Crypto was obviously in the shitter. A bunch of them pulled back. Some of them remain with Skeleton Crews, right? But if you think about it from their perspective, I mean, it's their job to do that future proofing, to know what's going on, to develop something. I don't think we're going to see them doing too much publicly until two basic conditions are met. The first one is companies, startups in the space, showing it to players that these games can be awesome, right? And I think there's a bunch of people working on that, right? Like obviously Paul's working on his thing. We funded a bunch of companies that are trying to do that, most of them with fucking top-notch Web 2 talent. that have wanted to build in the space, right? And so we need companies to show that these products are great so that the consumers accept it just because the audience is kind of negative on it. Now, that being said, if you do research on audiences and like what they think about crypto, what you have is you have like 5%, 10% of haters that are super fucking loud, and then you have 3% of people that care about it and they're loud too, but they're smaller of the vocal minorities. And then most people are just like, I don't care, I've never played one that I like, I'm waiting, right? And so there's the opportunity to define the market with the audience. And then the other thing that you need is regulatory clarity, right? And I think that that's something that we've seen a ton of this year, especially in the last few weeks. And so once we have players caring about this, and the regulatory side solving for it, especially because a lot of these big companies are public companies that have incremental or increased scrutiny on them, you're going to see them come in, and play in size, right? And so I can say that, we've spoken to internally, right, at Bitcraft. We have very good dialogue with a bunch of the large publishers around this stuff, like the public company CEOs and stuff that are openly saying, hey, this is curious. Some of them are not fully sold on fungible tokens, but almost all of them think that there's something with NFTs, and that makes sense. And so, yeah, it'll happen, but it still takes a little bit of time. Luckily, one of these things is kind of outside of our control, which is fucking government getting their shit together. But the other is very much in people's control, which is just, go put awesome games out there. And that's literally all I spend my time thinking about.
Ooh, I don't want to jinx it, but it's sounding a little bit inevitable, boys and girls. All right, let's go over to Koji.
I'm just gonna say that was a great answer, and I'm kind of swayed, but I'm still gonna just say a little deal because I feel like this has been a topic on this show about 1,000 times. So for the 1,001st time, little deal. At first, I was like, "Oh, it's a huge deal," like this is gonna turn the tide. But now I'm like, "Fucking show me something," Talk is cheap. Everyone could say they're investigating this, that, and the other thing, or look into it, or whatever. But until I see something that actually makes sense, like I don't give a shit anymore.
I'm gonna send it back to Carlos. The hand went right up, right away again. I want to see the rebuttal.
Yeah, I mean, in the last 1,000 times that we've discussed this, we haven't had the SEC come out positively on a number of crypto-friendly projects and huge regulatory burden being lifted. Bitcoin ETF approved, Ethereum ETF effectively approved, and we still haven't had an awesome game, right? Like at the end of the day, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink it, right? We can't fucking sit here on Spaces being like, oh, we're gonna have awesome games, and then people are just like getting scammed left and right with like games that are rushed to market, or just games that are still incomplete, even if they're totally like well intentioned, right? And so you need the combination of both regulatory clarity and players wanting this technology. Until like that happens, yeah, then maybe we're gonna have to do this 1,500 times. Because it just sort of keeps popping up and then dying down again because the two basic conditions aren't met.
I like that
Let's
he
go.
insulted me straight to my face. This is a huge negging right now for my game that is in market, but probably rushed too.
Koji frantically putting together a pitch deck because he loves Bitcraft all of a sudden, man. Oh, man, I love it. Jerry, let's go over to you, bro.
Yeah, I think it's a big deal. I don't know if everybody's gonna love that it's a big deal because I think most of those companies look at like the LTVs and the ARPUs that exist in Web3, and they're like, "Fuck yeah, how do I get that?" And all these other people, as Koji said, are not serious people, so we don't have to make serious games, and we can have people like $600 like ARPUs and stuff. And so I think yeah, I mean, I don't know that like we want them looking at they're not in it for the tech, I don't think, right? They're in it for the money that people spend here. And maybe the tech they'll do something to add to it, but I think for the most part it's like future proofing. Like I think that article puts in like investment, for example, right? Well, that's their job, is to invest in new tech, right? And also puts in people who have like blockchain divisions, but like blockchain is good even for things beyond like gaming, right? It's good at tracking supply chain and shit. So I think there's a bunch of boring reasons that companies might be interested. So you know, and it's not going to be legacy IPs and shit. We're never going to get like Diablo or anything. It's going to be like a some new IP that pops up that maybe we don't love yet and we can love in time. But I don't think it's going to be, Pikmin or anything like that.
Animositas, let's go to you, then we'll tag in Wills.
Yeah, this is totally a little deal. And I know this because all of these teams that have been assembled within these Web2 giants, they're comprised of one of either two primary compositions, right? The first is they've got a bunch of scrubs from within their organization that they couldn't figure out where to put them. They weren't willing to let them go because they didn't want to pay severance costs. And so they said, hey, let's create a new tech division. Let's stick them on the blockchain. There we go. That's option A. Option B is they've got like two people that are absolutely brilliant that love the tech, and they're like, hey, go figure this thing out. We'll be back here waiting for you. Meanwhile, those two people are sitting in a corner figuring out what the industry is going to be looking like 10 years from now, and they're being ignored by every other person in the studio because they're not contributing to the core profitability mission in the short term. I know because I've been one of those people, right? I'm not going to say which of those two categories. You can make your own choice. That said, this is a little deal until we actually see products come out. The organizations at this size and scale exist to perpetuate their current design and development processes. They're too large to do anything otherwise. Their shareholders won't generally allow it. This is 100% virtue signaling that if something happens to go well in the sector, they can point to this line on a chart and say, hey, we've been here the whole time. By the way, we didn't actually do anything with it, but please don't fire us as the board members because we are looking at this new tech emerging.
Covering your asses. Wills, do you agree with the man? And then Sinjin.
Yeah, I'd 100% agree with that take, that it is a little deal. The statistic that I'm waiting for is for 70% of my gamer homies to be interested in Web3 games. When that happens, that will be a big deal because that is when the big companies will start building instead of looking, as Animosity was saying. I think we're waiting for the product. We're waiting for that big game to come through and tear through the market that happens to have Web3 functionality. People don't care about the tech. No one cares if a game is built on AWS or Google Cloud. People care that it's a fun game. So, waiting for that game to come first.
I have great news for you. I don't know if you remember the first topic of today's episode, but Banana Clicker is the hottest Web3 game maybe in the entire world. Sinjin, over to you then to knock.
I think on one level, like it's such a small deal because it's kind of irrelevant at this point whether or not like 70% of big gaming companies want to get into Web3 because at the end of the day, like if they implement the Web3 kind of things with the regulatory uncertainty, so they don't add in tokens, they just add in NFTs, and it's cannibalizing their current revenue models, or it looks like a blatant cash grab, which a lot of the executives at these companies studios are definitely like on the hook for already as it is, right? Then they're gonna have to look to building out the actual game that's native, right? How long is that going to take? And so I think it's at it that they're going to look for winners and they're going to look for acquisitions to kind of get into space, right? So I think that with the experience that they've already had with mobile, of like EA and stuff like that, they know that maybe they may be late to it, right? But I think they'll be more open to acquisitions as well.
All right, you heard it from the man himself. Let's go to knock and then Wild Paul will finish up this topic.
So I actually completely agree with some combination of Paul and Carlos, but I'm gonna give maybe a little bit of a more pragmatic take and be Sinjin's favorite dirty capitalist. I think that this is just like the financially responsible thing for these companies to be doing. If you look at some of the biggest teams, and as we were chatting, I brought up a couple. I looked at Take Two, Activision Blizzard, Zynga, Electronic Arts. These teams have all seen their biggest 2 years in the last 2 calendar years, and each year that is coming is projected to be bigger and bigger. So, yes, amidst a bunch of layoffs and controversy, these teams are making money hand over fist. And the financially responsible thing to do when you're sitting on that much capital, especially as a publicly traded company, is look into, or at least do your due diligence into new markets and new verticals, new ways for you to create more revenue for your stakeholders. So, from a business perspective, teams looking into or making investments, I think, is the smart thing to do. I don't think it's some massive signal for whether or not they think this is going to be the next big thing in the next 5 years. I think it's a intelligent business decision to spread some capital that you have an excess of right now into what might potentially be a new vertical and take a couple of bets on some of the top players in this new vertical. So hopefully somewhere down the line, you've made a bet on a team that has a success, 5, 6 years in advance. And even if you didn't, then you can just deploy that capital by scooping up all the studios in the Web3 space that make a ton of money already. For me, I think this is more of a sign of the times. Gaming teams, gaming companies, especially large publicly traded ones, are making more money than they ever have. They have more capital that they ever have. And the financially responsible thing to do is do due diligence into new verticals and new products.
Yeah, can confirm. Whenever we were at GDC a year and a half ago, the chief strategy officer Ken Wee of Activision Blizzard actually joined the Wolves DAO, and me and Peyton took a meeting with him, and we were asking him like, "What do you guys actually want to do in Web3?" And he was like, realistically, we're probably just gonna hang out for a really long time and then buy whatever ends up being the king mobile of Web3." And he was like, "That's what we did in mobile gaming, and it worked great." And I was like, "Well, shit. I guess if I had $60 billion, I'd probably do that too." Wild Paul, giving you the last word on
Yeah,
this.
that's exactly it. So this is a little deal right now because Web2 companies, like these giant companies, they follow. They don't lead into new frontiers. That's historically not what they do. Now, Nintendo being the exception, but Nintendo's not, I don't think, getting into crypto anytime soon. So the rest of these companies, they follow and they will buy their way into the market, and that's fine. But as usual with these conversations, that as I think Lems was saying we've had so many times, it ends up turning into a conversation about, yeah, but it is a big deal because it is so fucking inevitable. And I actually wanted to tie this back to our discussions about the Switch too. Okay, so in the world of consoles, we talk about this as generations, right? So you'd be like, okay, this is the next generation of consoles, and it's usually like the new Xbox, the new PlayStation, new Switch. I think we have a similar thing in crypto, and that we are on the eve now of the third generation of crypto games. In my mind, the first generation was the Axie Infinity. So this was like crypto native products that just happened to call themselves a game, and that was hugely successful for what it was. These are products and teams that had never made games before, and that's fine. Gen two was actually, as we've been talking about, a bunch of like big Web two companies that kind of trying to get in because of what happened with Web 2, having a bunch of failures, and then a small handful of companies that actually were real game developers and got in early enough. And Parallel is the example I'm going to point to. They're a Gen 2 project that was one of the few winners of Gen 2 that emerged and has been so successful because of that. Gen 3, though, is finally defined by the teams that are stocked full of game development talent and now also stacked full of Web3 native people. So I'm not interested in these teams that are just Web3 and have no game development talent, and I'm still not interested in teams that are like some amazing Web2 veterans, but like they're like brand new into crypto and they have no idea what they're talking like. But what we have now finally is the teams that have been here for a couple years with Web2 talent that have also now been able to build their Web3 team internally, and their Web3 talent have the knowledge now of the experience of great game development combined with the experience of being in Web3 and understanding this and having Web3 native talent on their team. And those teams are on the verge of launching their projects into this Gen 3. And that is going to be the biggest deal, not just because it combines native Web3 knowledge with great game development talent, but also because crypto is, you hear me talk about, I will just never stop banging this drum. It is the best tool for user acquisition. And the other example that we were talking about on Gamified today with Banana is the perfect example of this. Look at how Banana hijacked these exact same sort of degen mechanics to become the #2 game on Steam with the dumbest gameplay. Like, it's always going to be true that these sort of inherent mechanics that we encounter with a blockchain and in crypto, I will take it to my grave, are the best tool for user acquisition in video games. And user acquisition is one of the hardest, most disruptive things to get right in game development. Generation over generation has been defined by, like, if you look at what Zynga pulled off, to use that example again, redefining, finding a new way in which user acquisition could be hacked via Facebook in this case. And mobile was the same thing, free to play was the same thing, and just exploding because of that. Crypto is by far the best sort of fabric or environment or fertile soil for disruption and user acquisition of any tool that I've encountered as a game developer over my years. So those all those things are coming together now. In the same way we're talking about like how Nintendo, and in my opinion, has all these things that are firing on all cylinders. Well, guess what? Crypto gaming is firing on all cylinders right now. We have begun to figure out now how to apply this to the problem of user acquisition. We have brought in great game development talent, and we are about to release these games into the market that are going to truly be games that gamers want. And Gen 3 is going to, I think, make Gen 1 and 2 of crypto games, including Axie, look like a drop in the bucket.
Annie, I see the hand up. I'll give you 15 seconds and we move on.
Yeah, Paul hit the exact key point and I'll go back 2 years ago. I had a video that I released about this exact topic. The number one thing I look for in Web3 gaming studios is a mix among the senior leadership team of Web2 game dev experience and of Web3 detailed knowledge. The reason is simple. You need any roughly equivalent strength arguing for the Web 2 gaming expertise and the elements there as you do people that understand the Web 3 space and the utilization of the tech. If you don't have equivalent power in an organization between the two to actually make it work, one side or the other ends up coming in and completely breaking the entire structure. That's why these Web 2 giants are going to have a very tough time. You can't just hire one executive who launched a Web 3 game, bring them in and say, okay, now we're a Web 3 hybrid company. It doesn't work that way. They don't have enough power in a large organization to do so well.
Well said, Annie. Great stuff. We move on. I'm super, super excited about the next topic. It's going to be another over-under around a transmedia IP. But real quick, treading on the icy slopes of innovation, Avalanche is set to unleash a flurry of groundbreaking excitement, transporting the beloved game Maple's story, speaking of Web 2 giants, into the glacial realms of Web 3, promising to plant its cherished saga in the permafrost of Web3 technology and aiming to create a new snow-kissed utopia. As our sponsor, they proudly wear the crown as the official blockchain of Gamified and built on Avalanche. You know it's none other than Shrapnel, where each interaction is an avalanche of adrenaline, each kill a snowstorm of skill. So target your attention to the titan of tactics, the detonator of digital domination in our official game of Gamified, Shrapnel. Get ready to enlist by locking your Shrap tokens in exchange for metal, setting the stage for your future rewards in their ecosystem. Plus, don't forget to play with Moku and forge your future with quests for monthly STXs, Discord games like the Lunatics, and the Sleeping Giant Mercury. Make sure you keep an eye out for that. Lock, load, and launch into the fray with Shrapnel, which is powered by none other than the interstellar and official infrastructure of Gamified Stardust. This cosmic conduit isn't just a tool, it's a galaxy of genius, a white label warp drive weaving the straightforward simplicity of Web 2 with the star-studded sophistication of Web 3, navigating the nebula with over 150 chains and harnessing the power of every single EVM, including Avalanche. Stardust operates the supreme starship steward in your in-game gold and galactic guardian of your gamers' gains. So big thanks to our sponsor, Stardust, the official infrastructure of Gamified. Love you guys. Up next, over under. Okay, the Fallout show. We're gonna do a quick fire at the start. I'm gonna judge. I'm gonna get your guys' opinions, your guesses. I'm gonna give you the actual answer, and then we'll discuss the reality because I have all the statistics on my side. The Fallout show reported production budget was $153 million. It was absolutely fantastic, by the way. I would give it like 9.5 out of 10. And I'm a really harsh critic of media like this. We have the numbers on how much of an impact it had on sales after the release of the show in April. So we have the April and May data. Quick fire. What do you think Fallout's show generated over or under $65 million in additional sales and revenue by way of people going back to the games in the franchise? And then I'll give you guys the breakdown. Dub, I think, had the hand up first.
Yeah, I'm going to go over, and I'm going to say they doubled it.
Sheesh, he's going way up. All right, Koji, what do you think? Over, under $65 million of impact?
Definitely over. Definitely over. I don't know about doubles, but it's definitely over.
All right, Jerry has the hand up.
I actually think probably way under. Are we talking about game sales?
Primarily game sales, yes.
Okay, I would say way under, but it doesn't matter what the number is because they got a licensing check for it anyway, and they didn't. Bethesda or whoever owns Fallout didn't fucking fund it. Amazon did, so people probably wasn't even the end goal. So under doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah, that's well said. Actually, you're right as well. Part of the number that I'll tell you guys at the end is part of the licensing deal, or at least the presumed amount. Animositas, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to say over as well. I'm with the first half of the panel.
Carlos, you taking over or under?
Under, unless we include licensing fee.
All right, Knock, what about you?
I'm assuming there's a bunch of DJs like me who bought literally every game in existence after watching the show, so I'm gonna say over.
How do you have time to play all
Dude,
these games?
that
It's
I'm
insane.
never gonna play them. I even bought Fallout Tactics Brotherhood. I don't even know what
The
the fuck
game
that
is
is.
stocking your Steam library. We all know that, Sam. Knock, you're good.
He's a collector. What can I say? Wild Paul over under.
Yeah, over and way over if you were to measure the long tail impact of this, which we can't measure now. But I just remember, and I don't know the numbers, but I remember seeing stories about how Fallout was suddenly spiking on Steam charts and such right after the show came out, and reminding a bunch of people that Fallout was a thing that they should go stock their Steam library with if they hadn't in a while. So yeah, over.
All right, Wills and Sinjin. Wills, over to you.
I'm going to go over, but barely, excluding the licensing fee, because it probably made a bunch of money off the game sales. The numbers were insane. But yeah.
Sinjin, your
Yeah,
thoughts?
I'll go over as well. I mean, my son even came up to me and he's like, whatever, 13, and said, "Oh, Dad, like, can we like buy Fallout or whatever?" So I'll go over.
All right, damn, locked in panel. I'll take some quotes from an article. It is expected that after the series release, Bethesda will sell an additional 2 million copies of Fallout. So the reason that this is spoken as if the show hasn't released yet is because it's basically data from April and May, and then they projected out until like July or something like that, because now they can kind of see the trend lines. And so they say it's projected basically that Fallout 4 is going to sell over 1 million copies, up to 1.5 million copies of Fallout, of Fallout 4, excuse me. And then 2 million copies of Fallout 4, and then 1 to 1.5 million of Fallout 76, which is crazy because that game was widely panned. They say this translates to $40 million in revenue after platform fees. So really, it's probably like $80 million in revenue. And then the daily active users of Fallout 76 increased from 100 to 200,000 a day to over 1 million after the series release. Casual 5x. And then VGI estimates the IP licensing deal with Amazon is $30 million, drawing parallels with Lord of the Rings licensing. They're estimating the total value of this transmedia play for Fallout was at least $80 million. So I'd love to get your guys' reaction to this. I know we talked about transmedia with Mario making a big play finally on the big screen. Jerry has the hand up first.
Yeah, I think that number checks out, right? And I see like I think in gaming, kind of like more mainstream media right now, it's an easy thing to shit on the Fallout like show and saying like, oh, it doesn't matter for Fallout's sake. But what people totally discount is like the brand marketing that Bethesda just received for free, right? Like, well,
That's what
they
I mean
made a
about
shit
the
ton of
long
money.
tail. Like
Yeah,
that long
exactly.
tail impact is so huge. It lasts for years after this.
Yeah, so they fucking just got, sorry, excuse my language. Well, I guess I talked about lovers earlier, but they just made, like $80 million for doing nothing other than making previous Fallout games and making a previous IP that was awesome, right? Amazon carried the whole lift, did all the marketing, and they're just sitting there licking their chops. So the fact that people in like gaming are saying that transmedia doesn't work and it's not the play are absolute idiots, because this is going to give, a windfall of hundreds of millions of dollars for the Fallout IP. And it's insane. Arcane's going to do the same thing. You will probably see the same thing in the Last of Us. So there's some downside risk in that if the show sucks, your IP takes a hit. But I mean, back up the fucking Brinks truck here. If you're Bethesda, dude, you are absolutely licking your chops, and you're through the roof. And this is amazing for the gaming industry.
I want this like flash gamified topic where it's like which IP that hasn't been announced is coming to transmedia would you guys be most excited to see come to like to have like a show or whatever? Like there's a Zelda one coming now that we all know about.
Pikmin.
That Peakman, yeah, the Peakman TV show. Yeah, right.
Yeah, that would be a great one. That'd be really nostalgic. I want to push back on one small thing. Arcane season 2 coming soon. Absolutely incredible, that show in general, but it is being canceled. That is going to be the very last season, probably because it's so expensive to produce that particular art style that was kind of revolutionary. Let's send it over to Carlos from Bitcraft. Your thoughts on this transmedia IP value?
Transmedia IP is the future. And I think like what's interesting about it, right, is like Fallout. That's a game, right? But the game existed fuck like 10 years ago, whenever. But I guess I was playing Fallout for 7, 8 years ago. And then Last of Us, like these are all games that were made for the game's sake first, and then they were beautiful stories or awesome. People figured out how to go out there and make something with it. Series, movie, doesn't matter, right? Mario was also big hit. I think that what we'll start seeing now are the people that from the very first day are thinking about how do I make the game as a transmedia property? How do I fit in the schedule of the game, whether it's seasons, whether it's just like the full release of the game with content that goes on the side? Obviously, a bunch of people in crypto have picked up on that pitch. I think probably we see more of those pitches on the Web3 side than the Web2 side, which makes sense because you're trying to sell the NFTs and you're saying, hey, here's the IP that you're going to own, and here's all the things that sit on top of that IP, regardless of whether it makes sense or not with crypto, or why it makes more or less sense with crypto. Transmedia does work. I like Bethesda. It's like Bethesda didn't get paid $80 million because they made games before. Like they got paid $80 million because they made games before, and they got paid $80 million to let someone else market their game for them and fucking show beautiful Fallout to a bunch of people who'd never seen Fallout before that go and then engage in Fallout 4 and go back, right? And we saw the same exact thing with Last of Us and everything else. And so it makes sense, the flywheel between lean back content and lean forward content. Sometimes you want to watch something and chill. Sometimes you want to play something. Those two loops feed off of each other. And as you start seeing people actively design for it, it'll just get better and better.
Great stuff, Carlos. Let's go to Knock.
Yeah, I think that I think it's so easy to like look at something like Arcane, or Fallout and be like, yeah, this is the future and it's only a net positive for gaming studios that do this. But like for every version of that, there's a Welcome to Raccoon City or a fucking Double Dragon or the 1993 movie of Super Mario. Like there's so many shitty fucking Doom. Oh my God, Doom. I don't know if you watched that. Fucking terrible with The Rock. There's so many examples of transmedia IP that came in, completely flopped, and had a net negative impact on like the way that people viewed these things. Now, I think if it's done well, like Fallout was or like Arcane was, the path for a lot of these people is, hey, I want to solve the mystery to this show that I'm watching. So as I'm watching Fallout, you Google something about the vaults, and then you learn this. There's 15 or all these other vaults, and then there's all these different stories attached to it, and each of those stories are accompanied by a game, and you're like, holy fuck, this is a massive world. So now I have something to explore because I was so compelled by the story that was told in the show that I want to go and learn a little bit more about it by playing the game. And I think the same is true of like Arcane, right? For every version of the Arcane world, there's literally a dozen other universes within League of Legends that we could explore, and there's so much lore to follow. But then every once in a while, something comes out like what we saw out of Activision Blizzard, and so many of their movies, and then it's
Don't
like,
remind
well,
me.
these
Yeah,
fucking
chill, B.
trolls are and orcs are pretty fucking gross, and I actually don't care about this ever. So I'm literally never going to associate with this. And then the most successful transmedia IP out of the World of Warcraft series is literally the guy on his computer, or when Cartman is playing and he's asking his mom to hold a bucket underneath him because he doesn't want to leave because he's addicted to TV. That's not what you want to be as like the thing people think about when they think of your game in media. So I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword. If it works, it is fucking fantastic. It is something that sets you up very well. It creates a whole different way for people interact with the world that you've created and the thing that you love so much. And when it doesn't, people just have images of Cartman taking a shit into a bowl underneath his desk.
You're 100% spot on. I love this idea of going with a game IP into other forms of media, because if it hits, you literally have a gold mine of a bajillion different stories, a bajillion different arcs that you could follow, and it's just endless. You could make as much of it as you possibly want. But we've seen whenever people try to extrapolate a movie into a game, literally at least 90% of the time it's absolute dog shit. I can't remember the last game I've ever bought because I saw the movie because they're so bad. I'm gonna send it over to Koji next.
Um, yeah, well, a couple things. I want to push back on Knox's last point that I think that we've kind of moved past this sort of shitty adaptation cash grabs, because all those early video game adaptations were bad, but I think for the most part they were just capitalizing on an audience. And now a bunch of IP have proven that like if you make something good, and you put enough money into it, there's going to be genuine cultural interest. I also think that like these shows and movies and whatever aren't just marketing for the game. Like the reason why these companies are making these shows, like Fallout as an example, is they know that these games have like an established um, base that is like hungry for this stuff. So like at least those people are going to watch and pass along that information to other people. And I do think it really is the future, because the amount of people that watched fucking Edge Runners and then tried to convince me that Cyberpunk was a good game is like astronomical. And yeah, you know, and anyone who's actually played it knows that they're dead fucking wrong. But yeah, I do think that like to the point earlier, you have to, everyone and their brother who's building in Web3 is like, yeah, we're establishing an IP and it's going to be the future and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. But like, really, uh, if you're going to be successful, I think you don't start out, you know, pushing for multi-platform, multimedia empire. You just like establish a few good core products, and then hopefully the rest comes from there.
Will's from Stardust. Want to hear your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to completely agree with Koji on this one. I think that I misunderstood video game adaptations for a long time. I used to think because as a gamer they didn't appeal to me, that they weren't good. For example, the Halo show is the one that comes to mind. Like everyone was in the Halo community was talking about how it didn't meet their expectations. But when I got on the plane a couple of months later, I saw tons of people watching it. If people are enjoying the way that those stories are being told, independent of the game itself, and are willing to pay to see more of those stories, I think exactly as Koji said, they can bring on a life of their own. And I think that that's the really interesting point. It's can game inspired spin-offs from a business standpoint sustain themselves independently of the games? Like even Arcane is getting cancelled. Like that's crazy to me that they're not willing to put more money into that for its own sake. So I think it's a really interesting point there.
Couple of comments. Alejandro Camacho says in all caps, "Who the fuck said that about Cyberpunk, Koji?" So we'll see how that shakes out. And the Pirate Master Murdoch also lets us know. He says, "Hey everyone, just an FYI, the Pirate Nation account might be compromised. Be safe out there. I'll update everybody whenever it's safe again." Appreciate that, man. If you guys are Pirate Nation fans, make sure you're being extra careful around that account until they get it sorted out. Sorry you guys are having that trouble. Back on topic though, let's send it over to Mr. Wild Paul. Wild Paul, your thoughts on transmedia IP?
Okay, so like, th- there's this great show on Netflix I want to pitch to you guys called "The Toys That Made Us." I might have mentioned it before. It's a wonderful show about the toy industry and about everything from Barbie to Star Wars toys to everything else, and just a phenomenal trip down memory lane and a great story about how merchandising interacts with transmedia brands. And there's this one episode that is all about Star Wars and about how Lucas took these chances on creating a toy line and a merchandise brand in advance of the launch of Star Wars, because he just thought like, look, I'm going to get this movie right and it's going to drive tremendous additional revenue into this merchandise. And like, of course, now that's all accepted and that's what happens every time. My favorite recent example being the popcorn buckets with the Wolverine Deadpool movie coming out. Anyway, and I think that what we're talking about here is sort of like the new modern retelling of that story. When you have something like Fallout, and you already have existing game brands out there being sold that are already trending on Steam, and especially when you have like an MMO like Fallout 76 that can capture a bunch of that interest and turn it into an additional source of revenue in the same way merchandise does, it's just an obvious thing. So, and there's so many home runs just waiting to be, like what Koji was saying, like it just, all you have to do is get it right. Like all you have to do is get great writers and produce a great show, which is Wildcate would tell you is the hardest thing in the world to do. But if you get that right, it's like just a no-brainer, because you're taking like whatever revenue you're gonna make from the show and multiplying it by these existing mechanisms for monetizing that user base via the games and especially the online the MMOs that are running on top of that. So I'll tell you guys the one that immediately comes to mind for me, of course, which is an Elder Scrolls show in the style of Game of Thrones, which of course is what Witcher is. And then I went and Googled it while we were talking, and I'm like, oh my gosh, actually there's a story about Netflix developing that back in 2020. So in theory, we are going to get an Elder Scrolls show at some point in the future. I hope so. And then the last thing is, because I asked for it and nobody gave it for me. I'm just gonna pitch the ones. I'm on a mission of trying to make Wave Race come back. So
Oh my
I want
god.
a reboot. I want a reboot of Wave Race, and then I want a Wave Race show in the style of Baywatch. Okay, there's my
Yeah,
pitch.
yeah, dude, it'll be like Brink, that Disney movie from the 90s, but with Wave Racer.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. I love Wave Runner as much as the next guy. I had to have played it for at least 20 hours in my dentist's office while I was waiting to get tortured as a child. But Paul's not allowed to pick transmedia IPs anymore. Jesus Christ, Wave Runner, that's where your mind of all the things in the world, Wave Runner,
Look,
Paul?
I said Elder Scrolls was the home run. Okay, Wave Race is my personal one.
Bring back Blast Corps, please. I don't know if that's a transmedia IP, but if we're talking about old games that need to come back, please bring that back.
You guys are awful. Animositas, your thoughts?
Yeah, look, there's such an easy monetization approach. I don't want to rehash everything the panel said, but they're 100% right. If you have a loyal fan base, and most games that have sold even remotely decent sales revenue, they have that in spades. Even if your movie or whatever other media you're creating is complete dog shit, they're still going to buy it. So you have a floor that's just baked in to whatever you're building. In addition, you have the chance to also capture new users. If the product, if the other form of entertainment is good, now you can onboard new users. Oh, and by the way, as we've seen, you're going to upsell them on whatever your game is. It's harder to make a good game that has a really loyal fan base than a good movie because the gameplay loops are much more complicated. And so as a result, we see these organizations that have been able to nail the gameplay, obviously take this path and expand into other arenas of transmedia. That said, this is easily one of the best use cases for why Web3 matters, because the entire reason this works is humans are tribalistic. We want to show our loyalty to whatever IP we're a fan of, right? This is why NFTs have such a strong following. People will buy merchandise, they'll buy other NFTs, they'll buy the opportunity to come and visit your founder at their home and God knows where, just because they're fans of the brand that you've created as an organization. So this is just another step in that completion of virtual worlds becoming signaling for what tribes you're a part
Oh,
of.
I just had to build on this real quick. I'll take 10 seconds. The thing that people don't realize when they think about this is like, oh well, if it's such a home run, then why doesn't everybody just do it? And then everything would just get farmed and transmit. The reason is the licensing for the brands and IP you love the most are actually incredibly complicated, especially these old established IPs. Like actually getting the rights to do a TV show can take years or sometimes decades to secure those rights for finally and to do those deals to find. So when you look to these,
Yep.
like what Animal Caesars was saying, you look at these Web3 companies that outright own their own IP, there's a huge advantage they have as being the rights holders for that IP and the ability to approach the market and say, you don't have to deal with 20,000 different rights holders that already exist in this fragmented IP. We have a fresh, brand new thing, like Pudgy Penguins, for example. And the IP rights are just here for the taking. So that can be an advantage for these brand
Yeah.
new IPs.
It takes years, and then you get Ring of Power.
I
Yeah.
want to jump on what
Or
Animosita said as
Mortal
well,
Kombat.
real quick. Although my joke was stepped on, but Web3 is also important because we're used to blindly buying dog shit. So
I just want to say you guys are all wrong. The best transmedia show, movie, whatever would be clearly StarCraft because you have the three factions. You got the Protoss, the Zerg, and the Terran. You've got the humanoids that people can relate to. You've got the Lord of the Rings, the Game of Thrones, kind of like people jostling for political power and motives.
Mm.
You got amazing CGI opportunities with Zerglings and Mutalisks and carriers. It would be fucking awesome. Sinjin, your thoughts?
On that, I think it would be fucking awesome because the Nancy Kerrigan art or whatever a Kerrigan art is.
Nancy Kerrigan.
Sorry, so not Nancy Kerrigan. Sorry, I'm old. But the Kerrigan arc is like fucking just awesome. But I would say I think there's one danger here is that transmedia is fantastic, but there to have a hit game is also to have like for certain games like that lore that's really really flushed out, right? And so I wonder if it's kind of not a distraction for Web3 games. Obviously, it's definitely the way forward. Like how much the failure rate is going to really be here for them to kind of branch out. Like you're building out your game and then you're building out your comic book. And I think the comic book's an easy lift relatively, right? But to actually build out, um, you know, one of these long series kind of TV series or movie or something like that. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot, and I wonder if that's going to be a distraction or not. But I'm pretty optimistic about where things are going. I mean, just to have that optionality and the fact that that's really a lot fast forwarded for Web3 because we put the brand so much forward first. So I'm excited, but I think it's not going to be the as easy as people think it is.
Well said. All right, knock, and then Lems gets the last word before we move on.
Yeah, just on Sinjin's last point, like it's definitely way more misses than hits. Like I've pulled a list of 25 instances since 2020 alone that have released based on video games. The only three that didn't objectively suck on this list are Arcane, Edge Runners, and Last of Us. Castlevania, D&D, Cuphead, kind of good. But then there are fucking movies on this list like Sonic the Hedgehog three times, three different Mortal Kombats, Monster Hunter, Resident Evil twice, Uncharted, Halo. All these movies fucking sucked. And there's so many instances of these things going live and just shitting the bed. And I think actually hurting like the game IP itself, regardless of whether or not those movies are a financial success. But the biggest bit is even when you find success, like The Witcher, you still have so many opportunities to absolutely fuck that up, like The Witcher, right? So even when you find success, you're still likely to fuck it up. Like there are not a whole ton of examples of really high quality game IPs, even in the last 4 or 5 years. So I think this is way more difficult than people think it is. And even when you find a hit like Arcane that people are still going to be super excited about coming this season or coming later this summer, there's still so many problems with just like the economics of even creating something like that because the show is too expensive for Netflix to even want to continue with, regardless of the fact that it was a massive success in season one and it'll probably be a massive success in season two. I think the margin for error here is just huge. It's just massive. There are so many things that you can fuck up when taking this IP. It doesn't mean it shouldn't be done. It should be done, and we're gonna have so many more great stories being told in a new medium that we haven't seen. But I think that for every one or two really great shows, there's gonna be like a whole graveyard of just absolute fucking Mortal Kombat level garbage.
Oh, dude, the Mortal Kombat movie. Don't remind me. Fuck, I forgot they remade that recently. Lems, over to you, buddy.
Yeah, like I agree with Knock, but I mean, hey, we're here for the home runs. Like that's why we're here. We talk about it all the time. We're going to have so many misses even in Web3, but there's going to be, some that knock it out of the park. I will say movies definitely are batting way more misses than TV shows. Like even in the last 10 or 15 years, we've seen way more high quality TV shows get produced, way bigger budgets. Like TV used to be the thing that was kind of that side thing that people didn't care about so much about, and movies were like you made it. Like even actors, when they got to movies, it was like you made it. Whereas now we see like really famous actors going and doing TV shows. We're seeing way bigger budgets. Like to me, at least, movies are being overdone and rehashed, and we're seeing the same IP get rinsed and repeated. And like, how many sequels can we have of this thing? Like, not mentioned like three shitty Sonic movies. But I think with TV shows, it also lets you tell a better story. You can do like a 6, 8, 10 episodes in a series. If you actually have a high budget, you can produce and do a really good story. Kind of like how Koji said, like we're at the start of the show, we're talking like we're shifting to gaming now. Like 20 years ago, it was all about movies. Then we're kind of shifting to TV. Now gaming is here, and we're kind of intertwining TV and gaming. And I think that's almost a sweet spot. You actually get 8, 10 hours to be able to tell the story. Whereas when you're trying to shove all this story in, a 90-minute movie, or now movies are like 3 hours sometimes, and you fall asleep in the theater. But I think TV shows and games just feel like they go really well. And like the fact that they have a 10-year-old game that all of a sudden just generated another $20 million in sales is absolutely wild. Like Jerry even touched on it too. Like Bethesda didn't take on capital risk for this. Amazon did. They licensed it to Amazon. Amazon took on the capital risk, and then they knocked it out of the park. I'm going to be optimistically hopeful that like after having The Last of Us and Fallout and a couple of these big hits that people see like, hey, if you take a strong IP and you give it a proper budget and you get good people to work on it, you can absolutely knock it out of the park.
Please, for the love of God, just whoever decided to make the Borderlands movie, just fire all of those people directly into the fucking sun. Because I haven't even seen it yet, but just the casting is awful. The tone is completely off. The trailer was dog shit. And then if anybody watched Twisted Metal on Peacock, that too, just a complete swing and a miss. Somewhere between an action comedy, dramedy bullshit that just did not represent the vibe of the game at all. A bunch of hands popped up. I do want to move to the next subject, but I'll give you each 30 seconds. Let's do Koji, Dub, and Jerry in that order.
Okay, real quick. I think bad is in the eyes of the beholder. I too agree that the Sonic movies were not great, but you know who loved those movies and still loves them? My daughter. And you know what that means? She's going to be hooked on it for life, you know? So like maybe those movies weren't made for you. And it's kind of a long play. So I think you have to kind of look at it like there's a reason why there's three of them. If it was really that bad, there would only be one.
There goes Koji reminding us that we're not the center of the universe like a fucker. All right, Dub, over to you.
Yeah, holy shit. I love Sonic. I didn't realize that anyone thought it was bad. But one of the coolest parts of working at Shrapnel for me has been getting to like share desk space and pick the brains of guys who've been working at HBO and on transmedia and all this topic for a really long time. And the things that I want to bring up is that it's getting way more innovative and like accessible for people to create transmedia around their IP. It's getting easier for game developers to get into that. So we're going to see a lot from that. And then as well as transmedia isn't only movies and TV episodes, you know, there's comics, there's webtoons, there's shorts, there's different ways of going about it that I'm really looking forward to a lot of different partner or teams like nailing. And I think Wildcard, for example, does a really good job of this right out the gate.
Alejandro says in the comments, I wanted to save my childhood and therefore I did not watch the Twisted Metal TV show. Please preserve that childhood, Alejandro. Jerry, over to you for the last word.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Twisted Metal doesn't have a game that they're harming, I guess. But I think there's also like we're leaving out Dota and Castlevania, and the Ace Attorney movie, which smacked. You know, shout out Paul. So there's a bunch of good examples, but like, do we really think the Witcher show hurt the IP of the Witcher, or do we think that like spiked game sales for that game as well? Do we think it spiked book sales, which is what the Witcher started as, right? So I think even the bad ones, unless it's like horrible, I don't think we're seeing a bleed over into that hurting the game IP.
I think I also need to give Jerry like some actual receipts here because like behind the scenes he's designing our next game and he DM'd me, can the next wildcard character just be a pothead type character wearing sweatshorts like a Shaggy type character from Scooby Doo wearing sweatshorts? And I said yeah, in the style of Ace Attorney detective genre. And he's like yes. So if that ends up being a thing now, he can claim some sort of creator rights, and I just need to go on record for that so that I don't get in trouble later.
I don't know what to make of this. I don't think that one's going to go well. But I've been wrong before. I've been wrong before. All right, we move on. AAA gaming on mobile. Is it irrelevant or inevitable? Assassin's Creed, $25 released on iOS store and only available on the iPhone 15 because it's so taxing on the hardware. People are saying it still had some performance issues despite only being available on the absolute best device that you can offer on iOS. And it's currently 3.6 stars on the App Store. Some are saying they're happy to get a AAA game experience on iPhone. Others are saying it's mind boggling as a decision. They can't possibly actually be profitable because the target audience simply isn't on that platform. So I asked my panel yet again, AAA gaming on mobile devices, is it irrelevant or is it inevitable? I think Koji had the hand up first.
I say irrelevant, but I'm also an old man and I would love to be proven wrong. When the iPad first came out, I was like, who wants a larger phone that doesn't have connectivity? So, you know, who the fuck knows, right? If I would love to see a AAA, like AAA games thrive and survive in the mobile sphere, but like, I just can't imagine it, you know? I don't see people. Mobile phones are for bus rides and toilets. You know, they're not really for long power
Oh my
sessions.
god,
So,
Fortnite and Minecraft would like to have a word with you.
Yeah, PUBG.
yo, talk about taking a shit. But yeah, anyway, I don't know. Prove me wrong.
I just did.
All right, on that note, Paul, I'll tag you in.
I don't, yeah, I don't know. I did. That was kind of my only point. I mean, Fortnite was so successful that it got into a war with Apple and Epic and it got pulled. And then Minecraft, I think, is predominantly mobile and started out as a PC game. I think it depends. You know, I mean, we talk about this internally a lot because top secretly we've had a version of Wildcard running on mobile phones, and it really depends on the genre. You look at something like League, and they needed Wild Rift to really be able to bring that experience, but that's been wildly successful for them. I don't know the numbers, but I imagine more successful on a revenue basis than even League itself. I just think some games can make that crossover really well. It really depends on the game, though. If a game hasn't been made with that in mind from the beginning, and again, a little bit of alpha wildcard has been made with that in mind from the beginning, is something that can
Oh my
control.
god.
I mean, look. Some games, you like. Imagine trying to play League on a phone. You definitely wouldn't want to be in the same matchmaking pool as the people on PC. Whereas some games, like it's okay, and maybe and there's this kind of gradient, obviously, between games that are cross-platform and games that are fully cross-play, and all the people are in the same matchmaking pool. And I'm not saying that Wildcard is necessarily can be cross-play, but like fully cross-play. But I think the games that can reach that level and are actually truly great, like Minecraft, really great on both platforms. There's really no distinction. You don't care whether a person is coming in from platform A or platform B, and everybody's just having a great time together. That's the ultimate goal for any game and IP and franchise. And Wild Rift is an exception, and it can be, obviously that approach can work, but it's not ideal. I'm sure they wish they had all their players in one pool potentially. So anyway, that's my take.
Yo,
Damn, you
wild
front.
card should 100% be on mobile. There's no question in my mind. It would absolutely rip on mobile. Wild card should definitely be on mobile.
It's cool to think about that future potential, isn't it?
Ten
At least
thousand
for me.
percent. I can't believe Katie. There's no way Katie is in the audience anymore because Paul's leaking alpha. Like he's talking about his sweatpants from
I
earlier.
think I
So
asked her to take a nap an hour ago, so I don't know. I don't know what happened.
smooth, man. I gotta say, I actually am an avid player of Wild Rift. I had to delete it off of my phone because it was taking too much time away from work. It was so addicting. I hit Masters, and then every season it like resets you, and I had that fiendish like need to grind to get back to Masters to prove I still had it. And I was like, man, this is just gonna absolutely destroy my life. But the reason I bring that up is to say League of Legends ports over really well because there's not a lot of like item abilities and a lot of nuance in the skills. Dota 2 could never in a million years be on an iPhone. So you're completely right. You could take two games even from the same genre and based on the things that they've added into the game, not have a fit at all or have a fantastic fit because I think Wild Rift is maybe even a better gaming experience than League of Legends itself. I think Wild Rift fits a phone better than League of Legends fits a full-blown PC mouse and keyboard because you just don't need all that shit. You use like three buttons. Let's go to Animositas, then we'll tag in Will's.
Oh my God, I just saw Jack's meme. You guys need to get that up in the nest immediately. Look, it's absolutely inevitable that AAA gaming is coming to mobile. Here's the point. You need to zoom out, right? Give this thing 10 more years, 15 more years of Moore's Law and of the ability for us to have vehicles that are self-driving that don't actually run you into walls and stuff when you don't want them to. That allows you as an adult to be able to play on a device far enough in the future that you are going to want those more detailed experiences while you're riding places, right? There are so many more gamers that are at adult ages that have shorter time periods to be able to game in. That's why mobile's been as popular as anything else, other than the continued development of tech. If you extrapolate that for another generation or so, this is absolutely happening, and I'm here for it. The other thing I'll point out is, you know what game absolutely works just as well on mobile as it does on PC? Bananas.
Banana game 1,000% would crush on mobile. Stardust, over to you.
Yeah, I'm going to bring it up to back to a point that was given at near the beginning. That is the market really there for a AAA game? I think we've had a couple different kinds of games thrown around. Like we were talking about Minecraft, Fortnite, League. Like this is Assassin's Creed. This is the standard $60 every year for a good-looking open world experience. At least to my understanding, that's what AAA has been defined as for this generation. And I think that there's definitely room for successful games like Fortnite, Minecraft, and League to be brought to mobile. But would we really call these AAA games? I think that the market for an Assassin's Creed type game, if you have $60 to spend on a video game out of the box, you've probably already bought a video game console and you're probably already going to want to play it on a larger screen because you have that expendable income. I think that the reason mobile has been so successful is because it makes gaming available to not those people who don't have those things. So if you're going to drop $60 on a game, maybe potentially some of the old school gamers will do it. I think that there still is a lot of potential within mobile that hasn't been explored. Like, I'm waiting for Infinity Blade 2, to be honest. I feel like people are really underestimating what can be done with controls and movement and sticking to very standard stuff. But that's just me. I'll get off my soapbox.
I love it, man. We're gonna work our way through the last two hands, and then we're gonna decide the MVP of the show. I also pinned up Jack's meme. Jack, thanks for taking the time to do it, man. Let's go to Jerry, then double finish this up.
I am really conflicted because like this rollout is, I think, not great. But I think V1 versions of things like we talked about sometimes don't land, but things get improved on. I think like limiting to the newest iPhone and putting a $25 price point on things, it limits um, the accessibility of the game, right? And I think we look at AAA on mobile being a good thing because it can unlock AAA for people who generally don't are priced out of AAA, right? People who can't afford a $500 Xbox or a $2,000 PC or anything like that. So I I want it to be inevitable. I think this is probably not going to land because we're taking that like overall giant TAM and refining it down to people that like it's AAA on mobile isn't really a fit for the people who can play it right now, right? So I think this rollout's a little bit silly, but I think as things get better and more optimized for mobile, we'll see some great iterations of AAA on mobile. But I mean, hey, the Virtual Boy wasn't the greatest VR headset, right? And then it went on. VR came a long way since then, so I think that'll happen on a very accelerated timeline for AAA mobile.
Go
Sam,
ahead, Koji.
I'm gonna do the thing that I keep doing is which is cut in, but like rich that we're in a Web3 space and saying that a $25 price tag and up to date hardware is too much of a barrier to entry to a game. Just so everyone look in the
Unacceptable.
mirror. Everyone look in the mirror.
Unacceptable. I would never. I would never. Dom, over to you.
Oh my God, dude, for me, it's inevitable. And I dream that it's as inevitable as Paul using me as the character reference for Shaggy and Wildcard. It just feels like destiny.
Is
Um,
this a pitch? This is a pitch.
yeah, it's a pitch. But more importantly, like I think the Switch 2 is going to be something that's going to drive a lot of the people to build like experiences on mobile that can compete against Switch 2, first part. And then second part, I think the holy grail that we haven't seen yet is not Fortnite, like just cloning Fortnite on mobile, but titles like Fortnite creating complementary, unique experiences that impact one another, where the things you do in mobile impacts your PC experience. And I think that's something that I'm really looking forward to the market doing and seeing pop out.
All right, great stuff, guys. It's time to nominate your MVP of the episode. Wills, I'm putting you on the hot spot. Who's your MVP of the day, brother?
Just like last week, whoever mentions Doom gets my vote, so it's going to be Knock.
All right, we know how to pander for Will's vote in the future. Knock, I'll send it over to you.
Just a quick week in advance. Doom, 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 doom. But it'll be Jerry because that is the most absolutely fucking ridiculous thing that I think has ever been said on this show. And it made sense. So yeah, kudos to Jerry.
All right, Jerry, who you got for MVP, brother?
I'm gonna go Paul. Man, Paul said a lot of really knowledgeable shit. It's an honor for people to be able to listen to somebody like that experienced, share his knowledge and thoughts. And he leaked alpha. Yeah, dude. I mean, just sharing his experiences is awesome. So Paul for me.
Can confirm it's an honor every single week. Mr. Paul, who's your MVP, brother?
Okay, I swear I was going to say Jerry before I said Paul. I swear it. Although it was a little bit of a close one between him and Koji, but Jerry takes it this week, especially because early on in the show told us all how to approach our women, and that's very valuable. And I can't wait for Gamified After Dark. And by the way, apparently Katie was asleep during this or something. I don't know because she hasn't texted me, and she would have texted me instantly. So this wildcard mobile thing, y'all just shut up about that. I don't want to hear anybody say anything about that. And we're just gonna pretend that and you just can hold that close to the vest, okay? All right.
That's our little secret. Don't worry about it, Paul. Appreciate you, buddy. All right, Carlos, who you got as your MVP today, man?
I got Paul. Extremely insightful.
Love
It was
it. And great
awesome.
having you for your first time, Carlos. You were an absolute gem, brother.
Thank you for having me, man.
Sinjin, I know it's late over there, my guy. Who you got for MVP?
Paul's always my MVP, but today, Jerry, that Fortnite stuff, I was very proud of you, my Padawan. I love it. It was very good. And I just want to say, like a AAA mobile game for $40, like what kind of crack are you fucking smoking?
All right, Koji, who you got, brother?
Yeah, I mean, I said it earlier on in the show that if you guys don't vote for Jerry, you're gutless wanks. I didn't say that, but I'm just borrowing from a good friend of mine. It's got to be Jerry.
All right, Animositas, do you agree?
Yeah, look, I pointed out at the very beginning from the elevator ride up, Jerry was the legend for the show today. Love it. Paul, you have amazing takes as always. Koji, the entire panel was fire today. Well done, everybody, but Jerry takes it home.
All right, let's see if Dub stays consistent or if this week we get a curveball.
No, that's really messed up. I realize, but I'll be damned if I vote for Jerry. Definitely giving it to Paul because I just ordered 5 new pairs of sweatshorts that I can't wait to experience.
Let's go.
I too look forward to it. All right, Jerry, you got 60 seconds to shill, big dog. Take it away.
Yeah, I'm gonna get on a little bit of a soapbox here. Actually, there's been a lot of conversations, kind of shitting on Web3 content creators, and I think those people are the least of our problems. I've seen a lot of comments of people saying like, "Oh, Web3 content sucks," and there's a lot of things that suck about Web3. I think the content is not really an issue. And people are talking about like, oh, dude, Web2 people are going to come in and they're going to eat Web3 content creators lunch, and I think that's stupid to be supporting people that aren't here yet instead of the people that have staked dug their heels in and decided that this is the industry that they want to push forward. So um, stop shitting on the people that are here. Stop shitting on the people that are working hard. Sometimes myself, I will put myself at the beginning of this. My content probably needs the most work, right? My content sucks, and I'm fine to say that. But I would never say that about anybody else here. Help those people if you think their content sucks. Help them make better content, right? Let's all push this industry forward together. Stop fighting. Stop shitting on each other, and yeah, fuck. Listen to Gamified, dude. This is awesome. I love being here with you guys, and this is the most like knowledgeable 2 hours I spend every week.
Hell
Jerry
yes.
sucks.
As number two, he's so right, y'all. I've been on endless amounts of Web2 content shows and with creators, and this is the most fun I've ever had. So Web3 may not have the same number of high quality content creators, but the ones that do have are easily reaching and exceeding the levels of the best Web2
Yeah,
content creators.
and I want to
So
say that's not
Yep.
directed at anybody. I just think like let's all help each other be better here. Let's not shit on each other, and that's just blanket. I put myself with that too. I shit on people too often.
Yo, Sam, are you hiring, man? Because this guy just used his 60 seconds to kiss your ass. I can't believe it. I voted for him too.
Yeah.
Bro,
Hey,
and
hire
Koji.
uptick if you need help growing your game. There, I'll shield myself.
Well done, Jerry. Koji said something nice about me in the group chat the other day too. I was like, I don't know what the fuck to do with myself. I don't think what Jerry said was directed at me, but I will take the compliment now that you've parlayed it over to me, Koji. Thank you. I appreciate that. And Paul, I like that Paul said as number two and then shielded his face. Fucking amazing. I love you guys. The MVP stuff is one of my favorite new additions to Gamified, just to be able to give you guys the recognition that you deserve for making these panels so special, for giving us your time and for giving us your insights every single week. It means the world to me. I do have to do this shill to say thank you to our amazing sponsors. So Avalanche, not merely a participant, but pioneering powerhouse in the blockchain universe, collaborating with some of the most electrifying entities in esports and entertainment, with partnerships that span from the strategic synergies of TSM Blitz to the dynamic realms of Korean esports with the Titan T1 to the nostalgic nuances of Maple Story. They're not just part of the game, they're leading the revolution, making monumental moves that meld magic with gaming and groundbreaking technology. Thanks to Avalanche for sponsoring us and being the official blockchain of Gamified. And of course, reload, regroup, and rally round as we salute Shrapnel, the strategic superstar spearheading the pulse of Web3 gaming. They're the architects of your arenas and guardians of your gameplay, and our sponsor, the official game of Gamified. God, I still it's been like 9 months. I still love it every time I get to say it. If you're looking to get involved, there's no time like the present. Shrapnel continues to add more opportunities to engage, earn, and be rewarded, so jump on in. And before we power down, let's spotlight Stardust, the stellar scaffold of Gamified. Don't miss their latest cosmic creation, Stardust's innovative user acquisition tool. Stardust is dazzling more gamers than ever, capturing hearts and handles at a cost that's nearly cosmic dust. Stardust transforms this dream into reality by precision targeting the perfect players for your platform at just the right moment. So keep your games gleaming and your player counts climbing. Let Stardust sprinkle some of that secret sauce and supercharge your success. Huge shout out to them for sponsoring us and being the official infrastructure of Gamified. Thank you to my amazing panel. I love you guys so much. You know we'll be back same time, same place next week. And if you guys want Gamified After Dark, silly game show that Koji and I cooked up, maybe slide in a couple of comments. Maybe that'll push us over the edge to make sure that we do it. But Paul, Carlos, Knock, Lems, Jerry, Koji, Animositas, Dub, Sinjin, and Wills. Man, I love you guys all so much. We'll see you back next week.
You're the best, Sam. See y'all.
Love you, Paul. See you soon, buddy.
Love you too, man. Bye.